Happy Wednesday! I know that the sun is right above my head, but I don't really feel like turning around and resetting up my camera, so we're just gonna go with light behind my face. Right now, there's not sun, it's just clouds, and I'm talking about the weather again. God, I'm talking about the weather again. I just finished reading An Abundance of Katherines! Aside from me taking Daniel Biss's math too seriously, I mean, way too seriously, Colin doesn't use nearly enough variables. But besides that, I actually graphed my one and only relationship. And so I graphed what I thought it should look like. This thing, it looks pretty good going into May and June, and then after that it just fails. And then I almost broke up with him around February because I'm like, fuck having a boyfriend on Valentine's Day. What's this shit? And then right around here, I kept trying to break up with him and it kept not working. So this would be a very, very tight oscillation. But then I graphed our equations, so assuming I got those limited number of variables correct, this is what I got, according to Wolfram Alpha, because I can't graph, like, equations in my head. And the interesting thing about this graph is that there's a real part, and that there's an imaginary part. Apparently, half of our relationship was a lie! And more interestingly, the part that was a lie is the part that's right around the x-axis. I would consider that the real part of our relationship. And even more interesting is instead of me breaking up with him, as is implied by this, he breaks up with me. Like, when? I don't know. Daniel Biss's equation did not work for me and my one and only boyfriend, which made me kind of sad. But I remember when I looked at his first equation, I was looking at that and I was like, dude, you only have one variable. And your variable is on a scale from -5 to 5. You have like 10 types of relationships, dude. I'm just like, seriously? You say you're bad at math. You are bad at logic. So I was very glad when Lindsay came in and informed him, but hey, you know there's more than one dimension to a person, you know? And then he extended that to 5 dimensions of a person, which is still obviously wrong, and I understand that the main theme of this book is that people are not numbers, which is great and all, but I want people to be numbers, because I don't like people, I like numbers. I, like Hank, like to read books for pleasure. I don't read books to, like, look at the symbolism. I read books, and then I nitpick things. I'm sorry, Daniel Biss, you're a really cool person, but, and I understand that this is used for literary effect, but no one's stupid enough to believe that people only come in one dimension, and one dimension being Dumpy Dumper, being the only relationship, or being the only number that you would put into a relationship, because obviously there's your self-esteem, and, well, that's as far as I got, because that was, like, the main concern in my relationship. Colin has a very limited understanding of how relationships work. Interestingly, Abundance of Katherines is the first John Green novel that I ever saw. It was sitting in the library when I was in, like, 8th grade, and this was when I was interested in books about people who tried to kill themselves. I was a crazy person. I still am a crazy person. But anyway, I'm just looking at this, and I'm like, oh, that looks like math. I like math. So I looked at it, and I'm like, when it comes to relationships, that was my reaction in 8th grade to anything that had to do with relationships. Of course, all the books about people who tried to kill themselves were about relationships. But, you know, I have to pick up my book now. My Nerd Fighter note fell out of it. I made a little Nerd Fighter note. And I put John Green's one piece of relationship advice. Use your words on here, because, you know, in case some nerdy dude tries to pick up this book in an attempt to figure out how relationships work. Which I really probably should have, because honestly I did try and, like, rationalize relationships at one point. Because I am Colin.